Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And folks, the Phils have won again. Are you getting tired of it yet? Nah, me either. Zack Wheeler, dominant yesterday. We'll talk about the 4-game sweep of the Giants. Also, Phillies Blue Jays, a 2-game series starts today. Why game 1 is such a big deal? I'll break it down. And we saw Bryson Stott at shortstop yesterday with Trey Turner injured. What does that mean for the long-term view at shortstop? We'll discuss on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. I normally say checking us out, but I like to switch it up. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That's not changing. Your team every day. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. There's no better time to jump in on the team with the best record in baseball than right now by subscribing to the Locked On Phillies on YouTube. So appreciate everyone who's done that, everyone who's going to. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, it's all in lowercase, Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. If you took more on Prize Picks for the Zack Wheeler strikeout line yesterday, you're a pretty happy person today because Zack Wheeler was dominant. The Phillies complete the 4-game sweep of the San Francisco Giants, a 6-1 victory for the Phils. I'll tell you what, before I give props to Zack Wheeler, I do just want to say this, partially because he's an area kid, also because MLB debuts are always pretty cool to watch, even if they're against your team, the team you're playing against. Mason Black looked pretty darn good early in this game for the Giants in his major league debut. Scranton guy, went to Lehigh, like a local kid, had a lot of fans, friends and family in the stands for Mason Black. Now, didn't go well for him the third time through the order when the Philadelphia Phillies touched him up a little bit, but credit to Mason Black for going out and battling for the Giants, but it doesn't matter. The Phillies are a juggernaut right now. They're the hottest team in baseball. They're unbelievable. They went ahead and had another double-digit hit game yesterday. 10 hits, 6 runs scored. Bryce Harper with another 3-run home run. He was 2 for 4. JT Realmuto, 2 for 5. Kyle Schwarber, 2 for 4. That top 3 in the lineup with JT sliding into the 2 spot for Trey Turner, who's injured. They were really good. Nick Castellanos, a multi-hit game. He's batting 197. He's close to that Mendoza line. Get him over 200, we'll be feeling good. He's the only guy below that for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. I liked what I saw from the Phillies. Unfortunately, Alec Boehm's 18-game hitting streak came to an end yesterday as he went 0 for 4, did not reach base. Couldn't go forever, folks. It was going to happen. And we talked about that. Like, Alec Boehm's not going to hit 360 for the entire year. The pitching staff isn't going to be outstanding every single time. There are going to be peaks and valleys of the season, but the rest of the team picks you up and your pitching staff picks you up when your best hitter right now, Alec Boehm, doesn't have his best day. Now, Bryce Harper was huge for them in this game. That 3-run home run that he hit really broke it open. But really the story of this game, the number one story of this game, is Zack Wheeler. 7 innings worth of work, threw 102 pitches in those 7 innings. There were points where he looked not as sharp as always, but you look at the numbers and you say, okay, well, 4 hits allowed, 1 run unearned because of an error by, I believe it was Bryson Stott, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. That's the most strikeouts in a game since July of last year. They mentioned that on the TV broadcast. What are you supposed to do against this Phillies team? What are you supposed to do against this Phillies rotation? Like when you got Wheeler and Ranger Suarez and Aaron Nola and guys like that going out there day in and day out and just dominating, this team has had an unbelievable start. Their numbers, when you look at the starting rotation, you compare them to the 2011 Phillies team, which you'll remember, the 4 aces, Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels, Joe Blanton also in there. I like to give him some love, even though he's not technically part of the 4 aces. He was part of that rotation. This rotation to this point, when you look at where that team was through, what do they play, 36 games, this team's rotation has been better. Now, 36 games does not make a season. They play 162. You know that. So there's a ways to go still, but an outstanding start to the year. And Zack Wheeler, man, every single time he throws, The only thing I can think is this guy's worth every single penny you paid him. That's why you needed to get the extension done. You did not want to let him get to free agency. You didn't want to let him test the market because that dude is a certified monster on the mound. He's the ace of the staff, even if Ranger Suarez has been outstanding. I think right now, and I've said it multiple times, I'll continue to say it. If I had to give the ball to someone right now in an elimination game, I'd probably give it to Ranger Suarez, personally. I don't know. He seems the most in control when he's on the mound, but that's a very razor-thin margin between him and Zack Wheeler. And that's saying something considering Ranger Suarez won National League Pitcher of the Month honors for the month of April. Like, to have the guy who won it and probably another guy that was in contention and a bunch of guys that look like they could be Cy Young candidates if they keep this up, and two real bona fide candidates in Ranger Suarez and Zack Wheeler. Like, this is a really hard baseball team to beat. Here's something we need to talk about as they finish the 4-game sweep of the Giants. And I told you before this series, it's crazy to expect a 4-game sweep. That's very, very rare to see a team get that done. Whether you're playing the best team in baseball, the worst team in baseball, or any team in between, to win 4 straight games like that against a bunch of different pitchers, that's not easy to do. And the Philadelphia Phillies are a team that makes hard things look very darn easy. Don't they feel right comfortable when you watch them? Don't you always just get this sense of calm? There's no, oh boy, here we go. Oh, this game's getting away from them. Nah, I don't feel good about this league. No, they're just a calm, comfortable baseball team to watch right now. And people might be talking about the strength of schedule that the Philadelphia Phillies are playing as they take out the Giants, who are now the Giants leave that series with a record of 15-21. Now, part of that is because they lost 4 games in a row. Coming into the series, they were only 2 games below 500. But I want you to look around baseball, right? Look at some of the competition that exists. When you look at the overall standings in baseball, there are a bunch of teams that just aren't that good. I mean, let's just look at below the Texas Rangers, right? More than half of baseball are like 19-16 or lower. There aren't the Seattle Mariners, not that great of a team. Boston Red Sox, not that great of a team. The Tigers, the Padres, who you swept. I mean, the Nationals are playing out over their skis, but still not that great. The Rays have struggled. The Mets are okay. The Pirates are okay. Like, there just aren't that many good teams in baseball right now. It's early, so teams could surprise you. They could go on runs late. They could figure stuff out. We're not even close to trade deadline conversations. But my point is, to anyone out there who's saying, well, look at the Phillies opponents and who they're playing, and they're not playing anybody. One, nobody plays the Dodgers or the Orioles or the Braves or the Yankees or the Guardians like every series. Like, that just – no one has that schedule. The Phillies are going to play those teams eventually, and those will be big tests. But you play the schedule in front of you. Part of this conversation, too, is last year, the Phillies struggled in an easier part of their schedule. They didn't take care of business the way they're taking care of business this year, and some other teams are struggling. I mean, you saw the Braves lose a series to the Mariners. You saw them get swept by the Dodgers. Not the Dodgers are good, but still, like, teams struggle. It doesn't happen normally this consistently, in a 6-game winning streak for the Phillies on the heels of what, like a 7 or 8 game winning streak that they had before that, if I remember correctly, earlier in the season. Like, this team is just really, really comfortable. They've won 17 of their last 20 games. It's like 17 of their last 20. I'm going to run out of ways to describe this team if they keep winning, but please, Phillies, don't stop winning. It's awesome to be able to turn on the TV every afternoon, every night, whenever the Phils play, and say, yeah, they're probably the better baseball team. They've probably got the better pitcher. They've probably got the better offense. They're probably going to win this baseball game. Like, that's a wonderful thing, and a lot of that goes to the pitching staff, but some of that as well goes to the offense and doing enough to get the job done. They'll have big days. They'll have slower days like yesterday, but at the end of the day, they're going to chip away, and then like the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, they're just going to pile on. They're going to end up scoring 6 runs. That's going to be too much for anyone to contend with this pitching staff. And solid outings from the bullpen yesterday, as you saw scoreless performances from Matt Strahm and Orion Kerkering. And just like that, the Phillies record is up to 25-11, 14 games over 500. Perfect. But that task, playing the Giants 4-game series, is now behind us. Tonight, the Phillies start a 2-game series with the Toronto Blue Jays. Not only are we going to preview that series coming up, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why today's pitching matchup is a really big one for the Philadelphia Phillies and why you should be watching very closely the guy on the mound for the home nine in tonight's game. We'll talk about it as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, let's discuss Prize Picks, though. America's #1 fantasy sports app. They got more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. So let's say you picked more on Zack Wheeler strikeouts yesterday. He got 11. More on Bryce Harper RBIs yesterday. He had 3. Cash in some money there with Prize Picks. I mean, it's that easy, and the Phillies are playing this well. Take advantage, right? Baseball season is rolling. You don't want to miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Like I was just talking about, could be strikeouts, could be RBIs, could be first inning runs. Phillies score early, Phillies score often. You could take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. California, Texas, Georgia, whole bunch more. Go ahead and check out Prize Picks, and they're the absolute best. You download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. They'll even give you a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more or pick less. It's that easy. You know what else is easy? Download Monopoly Go. Check them out. It's a great app. It's a fun game. You know the original Monopoly, but have you ever wished there was just like a little bit more, maybe? We're now in 2024. They should upgrade, and they have with Monopoly Go. I mean, the OG board game's still awesome, but you have to check out this game. You can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums and get big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. I mean, some people like to play on their friend's side. Some people like to make their friend's life a little miserable when you play games like this. Either way, whatever you like, Monopoly Go's got it all. It feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a bunch of different boards to play on, and a ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. Doesn't that all sound awesome? Get in on it. What are you waiting for? There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. It's game on with Monopoly Go. All right, time for the next series. No rest for the Phillies as they end up welcoming the Toronto Blue Jays to town tonight. South Philadelphia is the setting for a 6:40 p.m. first pitch in Game 1. It's one of those weird 2-game series because you just played 4 games, and that went into the Monday afternoon time frame. So you don't often get those Monday afternoon games, but it leads to a short Toronto. Why do I feel like they always play the Blue Jays in 2-game sets too? Something weird about that. Maybe it's some Canada thing. I don't know. Bottom line is you got yourself a very interesting matchup, not just the series, but in the pitching matchup for today. So the Blue Jays are 16-19. They're another one of those teams. They're just kind of middle of the pack and lower part of the pack. Haven't had a great start to the year. There's a couple reasons for that we'll get into. But the first thing I want to highlight is why today's game is so big, right? On the mound today for the Philadelphia Phillies is Cristopher Sanchez. He's facing Jose Berrios for the Toronto Blue Jays, and Berrios has been the better pitcher, right? 4.2 record, 1.44 ERA, a 101 whip, 43 2/3 innings pitched. He's got more strikeouts. He's got the same number of walks, actually. The only difference is Berrios has allowed 4 more home runs, so maybe a chance to leave the yard for the Phillies offense. Here's why Sanchez is big, because the Phillies have made the decision to move Spencer Turnbull to the bullpen. Use him as either like a potential piggyback guy, use him as a long reliever. And this follows the trend of what they did with Matt Strahm last year. Remember, Matt Strahm was pretty darn good to start the year for the Phillies. And then once Ranger Suarez came back, they said, okay, Matty, you're heading to the pen. Rangers taking over. And Strahm's become a big part of the bullpen. Maybe Turnbull can do that. But Spencer Turnbull's numbers have been insane as a starting pitcher this year. So to move a guy with those numbers to the pen, a lot of fans, a lot of people are questioning it. I was talking on the radio this morning with some of the guys, John Kincaid, Andrew Salchunas from Kincaid and Salchunas, the show that I produce on 97.5 The Fanatic. And they were like, why in the world would you pick Spencer Turnbull to go to the bullpen? I've explained it before. I'll explain it again really quickly, but I think the Phillies have really just built this philosophy of sticking with the guys they had on the team last year. Sanchez was here last year. Turnbull was not. They trust the roster they had built. Turnbull wasn't going to be on this team if Walker didn't get hurt. And now the time when Walker's back, well, the Phillies are saying, hey, we're sticking with our guns, and they chose to ride with Cristopher Sanchez. I would have put Sanchez in the bullpen. I would have kept Turnbull in the rotation. There's also a conversation about how many innings Turnbull's able to throw, considering he hasn't been healthy recently. But ultimately, the Phillies made the decision. Whether you agree with it or not, Cristopher Sanchez is starting. Turnbull is not starting. And with fans already questioning that decision, you really need a good outing from Cristopher Sanchez. You know what it would look like if Sanchez goes out and gives up like 4, 5, 6 runs tonight and doesn't look sharp and doesn't have his best stuff working? Well, immediately fans are going to be saying, and rightfully so, yo, dude, should have been Turnbull's start, could have had a win, might have cost us one there. So that's why it's huge. The Phillies have made their first big decision of the year, big roster decision, and the hope is that it doesn't bite them, because I think they're making the less than ideal decision, even if I just explained to you the rationale behind it. I don't think I agree with the move. A lot on the line here for the perception of how this team's going to handle their rotation. Now, you could always put Turnbull back in the rotation. It's not like it's a permanent move. You could do that if you wanted to, but something to keep an eye on. Now, let's go back to the series in general. The Phillies, minus 130 favorites on the money line today. They are favored, 56.8% chance to win this one. The pitching matchup in tomorrow's game, a Wednesday business person special, so 1 o'clock start tomorrow. Aaron Nola against Chris Bassett, and Bassett's been rough this year. Nola hasn't been the sharpest pitcher in the Phillies rotation, but he's gotten enough done. He's 4-1, so Phillies are once again favored tomorrow. So you look at that and say, okay, a chance for a series win again, and the series win in this would be another sweep, another 2 games. Split would be okay. I'm cool with that, especially Sanchez throwing today. And you got Berrios, who's been very good for the I almost said Toronto Blue Jays this year. The thing that you want to look at is the numbers at the plate for the Toronto Blue Jays. Their batting average as a team is 226. The Phillies, 256. 50 less runs scored for the Blue Jays. They just haven't created the offense. They have more than 50 less hits than the Phillies on the year. They have more than 14 less home runs. They just don't create as much offense as the Philadelphia Phillies do. Their earned run average is 4.51. Phillies 3.27. So it's not a huge difference. It's a big enough difference, but it's not like, oh, you got a 5 ERA to a 3 even ERA. The pitching isn't the biggest discrepancy in this one. It's just the ability for the Philadelphia Phillies offense to create opportunities. The Blue Jays haven't done that. So maybe that lends to a strong start for Cristopher Sanchez tonight. Maybe that lends to a strong start for Nola tomorrow. Also, the Blue Jays have lost 4 of their last 5. They lost 2 of 3 to the Nationals, and they lost 2 games against the Royals in their last 5 games. So, I don't know, a very beatable team. You're home, you're hot. You're also facing, too, something to keep an eye on, righty in this game tonight with Berrios, and in tomorrow's game with the pitching matchup and facing Chris Bassett, another righty. What does that mean? That'll be 6 right-handed starting pitchers in a row. So the offense is kind of in a routine of facing righties. That's a good thing for the Phils, too. I feel good about these next 2 games. Split would be okay. 2 out of 2 would be awesome. Don't expect them to lose both. That's kind of the expectations as we continue. Don't change the expectations for each individual series. Just do what you do best. Go out and take care of business more often than not, and this team's going to continue to be really good. But coming up next, we're going to talk about a change that we saw in the lineup yesterday, or rather in the defensive alignment, and what it could mean for the future, as Bryson Stott played a little bit of shortstop yesterday. We'll talk about his performance and, again, the implications of it as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, let's talk about DoorDash, though, because Mother's Day is coming up. It's Sunday, and you've got to go ahead and check out what DoorDash is able to do. They can help you make mom smile. Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Moms are a gift, so give her the best this Mother's Day. You know how hard it is to make brunch reservations, to clear your schedule, all of that stuff, but you want to make sure mom gets what she wants. Well, you can get gifts as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. There's hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets that you can select from, to the best of tech, to self-care essentials, and more delivered right to her door. You got to check it out because they have everything your mom could need. Plus, not just Mother's Day. Any day of the year, DoorDash can help you get stuff. But get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place, and you can get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms do apply. So Bryson Stott played shortstop yesterday. And I don't think there was ever a question of like, can Bryson Stott play shortstop? We know he's good enough defensively. We know he's played there in the past for the Phillies sparingly when he's been needed. Second base is kind of the position that suits him based on the roster around him. But with Trey Turner injured, Edmundo Sosa got the first swing at shortstop. Yesterday, Bryson Stott found his way to the shortstop position. And he turned a really nice double play earlier in the game. Also made an error. Like, you're going to have some growing pains when it comes to how you handle a change in position. But I've been hearing people talk about Bryson Stott should play shortstop over Trey Turner. Here's why I don't agree with that, right? And we don't have to worry about this for a month and a half, as Trey Turner, unfortunately, is still dealing with that left hamstring injury. But Bryson Stott was a near Gold Glover at second base last year. He's really good over there. Trey Turner, I get it, was not good at shortstop last year defensively. He wasn't good offensively for most of last year. He's had a really good start to the year. The injury comes at a tough time for him, but I didn't look at Trey Turner's defense as killing the Phillies this year. And honestly, I'm trying to, with this team, when they're healthy, change as little as possible. If you get to a point where Trey Turner's costing you opportunities to win ball games, where you feel that your best opportunity to compete every day is not Trey Turner, then a conversation can be had. Did anyone before the Trey Turner injury sit there and think every day, Stott should be over there at shortstop? No, you just see an opportunity and you say, he looks good too. That's okay. The best version of the Phillies is Trey Turner at shortstop and Stott at second right now. I don't want to move those guys around. I don't want to make a permanent change to Stott. At some point in the future, you'll probably see as Trey Turner ages, he moves to second, Stott goes to shortstop. And that's some point in the next 3 or 4 years. That's not this year. Why would you create changes when consistency has gotten you to a 25-11 record? You're just opening a can of worms that could potentially lead to lesser performance. Like, don't fix what isn't broken. And the middle infield for the Philadelphia Phillies is not broken. I'm not saying Stott can't do it. I'm not saying he wouldn't be better than Trey Turner at shortstop, but I'm saying, like, then you question Trey at second base. Then you question Trey's mentality when he's at the plate, the trust he feels from the team. Like, you question if Stott's going to be more focused on shortstop than the at-bats. He hasn't hit well already. Like, it's just adding stuff to guys' plates that you don't have to. Stott plays second. Turner plays short. You can win a lot of baseball games with that alignment. So I'm not changing anything there. Just my 2 cents on the matter. Not a problem yet because Turner, unfortunately, like I said, still on the injured list and will be for the next month and change. But it's all good news in Phillies land, folks. Everything is peachy keen for the Fightins. Hopefully they go get a win tonight against the Blue Jays. Again, Cristopher Sanchez could really help us mentally by showing us that they made a somewhat logical decision to keep him in the rotation. He could back up his team's decision by going out there and shoving tonight, and I hope he does. But whatever the result, we'll talk about it tomorrow on our next episode. That's all for today. Thank you so much for checking us out. Again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And please make sure, once more, you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. I will talk to you next time on our next episode.